Yeah, if you think about sulfur chemistry in the soil, that's very complex. And there, we have an idea what happens when we put sulfur in the soil, right, in terms of conversions and mineralization and stuff. But I think one of the things that probably we need more time is to figure it out is what happens with different sources of sulfur. Like what happens when you apply, I don't know, ammonium sulfate or ammonium thiosulfate this year. What happens to that same field 2 3 years from now, right? So I think that's where most of the research that we're trying to figure it out now. We're starting kind of looking at the different sources and then over time as well.
Are there some concerns that you might have about a negative impact?
Not a negative impact, but you know that sulfur chemistry in the soil, and you know if you think about a lot of the fields having are receiving some sort of sulfur application, because we're still trying to grasp how long they will be in the soil and be available to the crop. Sometimes that plays into what we see in terms of yield responses, right? So, for example, we may have a field that we think that will respond, right? So, if you think about classic sulfur deficiency, right? So, we would expect to see those on lighter soil texture soils, low organic matter. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we see responses, but some other times we don't see responses.
Like a little child who doesn't going to do what mom and dad say.
I guess, yeah, that would be a fair comment.
Okay. So what if a farmer is concerned about the potential need for more sulfur to increase a yield? How should he or she go about making those management decisions?
Yeah, like I said on my presentation here, you know, when we look at the data, we see different responses. So to me, it's fair to think about not every field will respond to sulfur or may not need sulfur. I think the best way for a farmer or a grower to figure it out if they actually need or if they would see a response is just putting some strips in the field with and without sulfur. To me, that would be an easy way to start thinking about, for a farmer to think about, okay, this is a field where I would expect to see deficiencies. Let me put some strips here with sulfur or even without sulfur and see if there's any yield responses.
So really do some of your own on-farm research, and you may take it, every field may need a little bit at least once every few years.
Yeah, and then you can start building your database, right, with your different fields, and then as you move, and then you do more years. I mean, the more data you have, the more confident you can be in terms of management.
Okay. All right.
So I think, yeah, that would be an easy way to start. But again, not every field will respond. So yeah, I would start with that.
You've got some new research going on, some dealing with something else?
Yes, the other part of my presentation was providing preliminary results from 2 trials that we started last year, both trials funded by Illinois Soybean Association. And the overall idea was to look at soybean responses under conservation management practices. So with those projects, we have 3 sets of trials. So one, it's looking at soybean. It's looking at the tillage interaction with nitrogen and sulfur on soybean. So we're looking at conventional till as our control, and then we're looking at strip till, no till, and then 3 levels of fertility. We always have a control where we don't apply any fertilizer, and then we have one treatment where we're applying nitrogen as UAN, and then another treatment where we're applying nitrogen plus sulfur as a mix of UAN and ATS.
Okay, and this is all in soybeans.
All in soybeans, and again, 2024 was the first year. We have 3 locations. When we look at each location individually, we saw interaction between tillage and sulfur at our location, northwestern Illinois in Whiteside County. For that location, we planted soybean early, right? So if you think about conditions during that time of the year, the soils are usually cold and wet, so not a lot of organic matter mineralization, which supplies the majority of the sulfur into the crop. When we look at the yield data from last year, it was interesting to see that we actually saw the highest yield coming with the no-till treatment when we had no fertilizer application. For some reason, we saw a yield decline with the conventional and even with the strip till tillage without fertilizer. But one interesting thing that we saw is that when we added nitrogen with the conventional tillage and when we added the combination of nitrogen and sulfur with the strip tillage system, we were able to bring those yield back and being comparable to the highest yielding.
So combination of nitrogen and sulfur has something that a little extra added attraction then.
At least that's what we saw with the strip till. But again, first year of data, I'm still working with my grad student to try and understand what happened. We're collecting a lot more information than what I just shown here, which was the yield data. We're measuring soil moisture and temperature to try and understand and contrast the different tillage treatments. We're taking soil samples and tissue samples throughout the growing season as a proxy of nutrient availability. But yeah, that's what we saw last year. Again, 1 year of data. We're replicating that trial in 2025, and I think that will kind of help us figure it out a better story.